to make calls, send SMS, load airtime, buy bundles, or pay for MTN subscription services.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
It's the festive season and we love it. And that means it's time to celebrate with GoTV.
Come with me.
So get your GoCoder and GoTV value for 25,000 shillings to watch with the whole family. And if you're feeling extra festive, upgrade to our best package yet, GoTV Super.
Something to look forward to.
Download the My GoTV app for more information.
Super.
We all deserve a super festive season. And with GoTV, there's every reason to love it.
Transact and win money after money with Airtel Money. 1.5 billion shillings in cash prizes up for grabs.
Mariam, Nyonyintono, Tabedo Jinja, Tadio Star 185, Tachulo Rigo TV for a month. After 2 days, your Airtel Jobinojo Goran Simu, Sana winning 100,000.
The more you transact, the higher your chances of winning. Airtel Money. Instant, secure, borderless.
Raising voices.
I feel happy when my mother spends time with me. I hope all mothers will like my mother. I want my mother to reach out to all mothers. She knows how important it is to be a good mother. I promise to help my mother inspire other mothers to change.
In this time of COVID, what is your promise to the children of Uganda? Because a violence-free childhood is everyone's right. Raising voices.
Introducing Learn From Home Data Bundles. Customized bundles for you and your family to study or work seamlessly from the comfort of your home. Use any of these affordable data bundles to connect to your MiFi, routers, laptops, tablets, and smartphones while avoiding unwanted internet exposure and ensuring undivided attention during online classes. Enjoy instant access to Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Google Meet, and selected educational websites. Dial star 175 hash to buy your Learn From Home bundle today. Airtel, the smartphone network. Terms and conditions apply.
Patriotism is a feeling of love, devotion, and the willingness to sacrifice for one's country.
I say no to corruption because I put my country first. I choose peace over violence because I put my country first.
I love Uganda. I serve Uganda. I sacrifice for Uganda. I'm loyal to Uganda. I love myself.
Be patriotic. Uganda first. This message is brought to you by the National Secretariat for Patriotism Co Uganda, Office of the President.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field could not be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite show.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
The program lineup on UBC.
Brought to you by Roofings, Strength of a Nation. You by introducing the all-new Roofings TMX 500C rebars with cut and bend surfaces. Roofings, Strength of a Nation.
It's the festive season and we love it. And that means it's time to celebrate with GoTV.
Come with me.
So get your GoCoder and GoTV value for 25,000 shillings to watch with the whole family. And if you're feeling extra festive, upgrade to our best package yet, GoTV Super.
Something to look forward to.
Download the My GoTV app for more information.
Super.
We all deserve a super festive season. And with GoTV, there's every reason to love it.
Introducing the all-new Roofing's TMX 500C rebars with cut and bend services. Roofing's, strength of a nation. Transact and win money after money with Airtel Money. 1.5 billion shillings in cash prizes up for grabs.
Nyombe Marusi Ronald, Ngazwarua, Mitolu Star, Alo Aro Toi, Hash, me daily, Milo airtime je, Mito mi MB's data je, then Milo, Choti Milisu in the Banlu send the Balumi call. Customer can only call early or many in the sender.
The more you transact, the higher your chances of winning. Airtel Money, instant, secure, borderless.
It is 7 o'clock sharp in the morning, the week of Thursday, 16th December 2021. My name is Priscilla Nalwoga and welcome to Good Morning Uganda into our 7 o'clock hour where we kickstart it off with a topical discussion in our newsreel. And having this discussion with me this morning is Robert Kirabo and Felix Nkunda. But before we get into the deep of the discussion, we do want to pick your mind on a poll question for this morning.
And our poll question is, who is to blame for the unending strikes of medical practitioners? Be able to share with us your thoughts, your, of course, true sayings about the same. Now use our social media platforms, that is on Twitter, #UBCGMU, and of course for our WhatsApp number 0709602592.
Well, thank you so much, Felix. And now we turn our attention to a topical discussion in our newsreel this morning, where we get to look at the recently released school calendar that does confirm that the year 2022 is going to be fully reopening for the education sector across the country. This was released under the Ministry of Education, courtesy of the Minister for Education and Sports, Janet Kataha Museveni, and she met a few pointers here and there. But to just give you a summary of how the school academic calendar is going to be running, you get to look at the first term. It's going to be starting from January 10th all the way to April 15th, 2022, and then they'll go into a holiday. Then they will return on the May 9th into August 19th, 2022 for second term, and third term will be kicking off in September, which is 5th, and ending on the 9th of December 2022. The first breather is that we're going to be back to the normal that we have been used to in regards to education, and those are the 3 terms that we cater to here under the Ugandan system. Of course, in comparison to what has been happening in the couple of 2020 into 2021, those that have had to go back to school, especially in regards to candidates, they've had to have a disruptive kind of program in regards to the academic calendar to be able to sit for their examinations. But now we're getting back to normal. This is positive news. But Robert Kirabo, what are the details into this school's academic calendar that has been released by the Ministry of Health?
Well, first and foremost, the entire year we're going to be having 42 weeks, and these are going to be split into 14 weeks per, that is a term, because if you look at it properly, that first term is going to begin on Monday, that is 10th of January 2022, and it's going to run to until Friday 15th of April 2022. So you'll have second term run from Monday 9th of May 2022 to Friday 12th August 2022. Then third term will begin on Monday 5th September 2022 and will go to Friday 9th December 2022. So you look at a total of 42 weeks are going to be covering the entire year of education. Now let's also look at the holidays. The holidays, first term holiday will begin on Saturday 16th of April, that is 2022. It will run to Sunday 8th of May 2022. So the holidays, that is going to be of 3 weeks. So they'll have a 3 weeks holiday. Then second term will begin on Saturday 13th of April 2022 and it will end on Sunday 4th September 2022. Still, that is a 3 weeks holiday that we'll have there. Then the biggest, that third term holiday will start on, that is Saturday 10th of December 2022. Then it will end on Sunday 29th of January 2023. That is the longest, and is 7 weeks in total for holiday of third term. So when you look at how many weeks they are going to be resting, the period of holidays, that amount to 13 weeks of resting. Then the weeks they're going to spend in school, if you look at all the terms, those are 42 weeks of these learners, the 15 million plus that we've been waiting for to begin classes will begin, and of course that is now the calendar. Speculation now has ended. Parents know how to plan better because 10th it's all opening. No more suspicions, they will not, according to the minister here.
I will turn to the educationist, and I would like to get his view on how this news is being received in different circles, because I know first of all it's a positive. The kids, like Robert here has a niece that has been seated since 2020 March, and this time round they're going to be having the opportunity to go back to school. Felix Nkunda, what's the state of people in receipt of this news, and also in consideration that the Minister of Education Sports did also make a confirmation that there will be class graduation in terms of automatic progression. If you were in senior 2, that was March 2020, now you get to actually progress to senior 3. Of course, with consideration the teachers will have to give remedial classes for students to catch up here and there. But in the wake of that progression to the next class, what do we speculate on this?
Well, it's a very sober decision by the ministry or government for that matter. And from the angle of education or academics or the academia, it has been a long time coming. I can tell you that one would say we are late in terms of education. And of course, the disruption is going to be evident probably 5 years from now, 10 or 20 years from now. Definitely the country will be able to witness the disrupted education system if we don't work tirelessly to make sure we mend the pieces. You see, one of the most aids to success or to getting or to achieving probably a desired goal is the level of certainty, let's say, a project has. When a project or a particular aspect of work you're doing has a particular degree of certainty, it makes it easy for you, one, to plan, to budget, and all these probably fall under planning, to know how to execute. Of course, you know what to do in preparation in terms if you need to get money, how much money, all these kind of things. Now, with the presence of certainty, I believe and trust that most of the academias are in terms of students, and of course the institutions know what to do ahead of the reopening. When we got this whole thing of locking down, you notice that it was, since then, actually up till today, we have been living in anticipation. If you remember, there was a time where even the government had, and this one was quite a bitter one for them. I remember when the president came out to see that we do away or we do off with the candidate classes, and they said we'll be opening it, staggering, people will come and do exams. It was a well thought move by government. However, it wouldn't be the total closure of the gap. Now the fact that government has conclusively come up with a calendar of probably looking at 10th henceforth, and I love the fact that also it catered for the pre-primary. For most of the most recent discussions, you've not been seeing the discussions go as low as the pre-primary. Because the question is, in 2020, when we closed, the people who are in top class, and some of us...
They are topping their class.
They have been topping the class for the last 2 years, one would say. What happens to them? I've also heard from a colleague, Robert here, who said, I think it was offset, that probably the statement was that no child, said below the age?
No child below the age of 6 will be allowed in primary 1.
And for me, that's where I find a controversy. Because you see, by virtue of being human beings, we have different talents. We have different abilities and, of course, challenges in terms of what we can do and not do.
Different speeds.
I think this should be left to assessment because we are dealing with a very, very unprecedented situation for the most recent generation. For example, a child who has been in top class and was, let's say, 3.5, 4, you know, doesn't guarantee that they are fit to go for a P1. Because these kids, if the parents have not been very sharp, they have not been studying for
2 years.
For 2 years, and you know what happens at that age. But probably if there's a kid who is sharp at the age of 5 and they have been studying, the parents have been interested to make them, why don't you let them go ahead? I feel that we cannot deal with this situation with critical decisions that we must leave room for relativeness or subjectiveness in how we handle. Like when you say that we are going to have, how do I say it? We are going to have automatic progression. You can't do that.
With remedial classes, to catch up.
But how does it work? Because if you're saying remedial classes, then you're telling me to revise what is past.
Yet I'm teaching what's current.
Teaching what's new. The point of the class progression is because now you're starting a whole new chapter. We all know you study different things in P4, you study different things in P5, you study different things in every single class. And I think the point is to eliminate that whole pressure of what have they not studied.
Actually, I think the ministry is trying to get us back to the old calendar, because now if you open, you know, the term is starting in January, and we know how our education calendar has been moving, that we know this is first term, this is second term, this is third term. When you look at this calendar, it's so much similar to that.
Okay,
so they were looking at a person who was in senior 2, for example, by the time he closed, maybe second term, and now you're going to have a problem of those that have been in senior 1. So you're going to have senior 2s, 2 classes of senior 2s. So if these get that promotion to the next level, they are creating gap for those that sat P7 and now they're entering senior 1. So how do you balance? I think it's the issue how you train the teachers to ensure they find a way of ensuring that cover up with what this person who was in senior 2, maybe second term, now that he did not study third term, how do you bring that in as well as give part so that you don't have these lapses? Because, you know, when we had candidate classes, there's an issue, there's this big question. Are we going to have 2 senior 1s? You remember that? Are we going to have, I think, 2 senior 5s? Something like that. But when you look at this arrangement, now it solves that problem.
Felix?
Well, for me, I think that given the kind of education system we have in this country, given the kind of syllabi we also have, but also on top of all that, the kind of teaching staff we employ as a country, and also the support of government towards education institutions, you may not have full guarantee on such. When you say that you're going to let these guys go ahead automatically, then you'll give them remedial classes. I don't think that is now, for example, an extra load, unless you're going to hire other teachers to do that, as these ones teach these ones. How do you cater for that lacuna? For me, that was one of the lacunas. Secondly, I saw the time of the terms was cut. If you noticed, there was a bit of reduction in how much time they will have at school. In as much as we want to catch time, we don't have to chase it. And I want to repeat that. in as much as we want to catch time, we don't have to chase it. We can catch time in many ways. One of the ways is by doing the right things in the right way. We acknowledge that we have been in a bad place, and it's no one's fault. No one is going to blame the minister, the president, or what. Everyone would see that. We just have to use this time. And for me, this has been my big argument. How do we use this time to usher out something profound that caters for the unseen circumstances like the ones we have been in? Because before you know, someone was, and we were talking with a colleague of mine in the education sector, and we were saying, this COVID thing will never go. Let's be honest to each other. Whoever saw now the Omicron, so-called Omicron, you saw what's happening in the UK. They have even recorded more cases than the one in January where we had a highest surge. This thing will never go. Now, if we are trying to fix, we can't be fixing education. We can't be fixing.
It has to be it comes in consideration of the fact that I think Uganda is one of the countries that has had the longest period of schools closure. Close to 2 years is a long spell of time.
Let me ask.
And they have a lot to catch up within that lost time.
Absolutely. Now, that's what I say, that we can't do time chasing. That's what we seem like we are doing. Because we have been at it for a long time, let's not just run to make sure we open, let people go automatically. No. I think we should soberly think about how better we can look at education in regards to the major conceptual aspects of values of education, in terms of content, in terms of meaningful education. And that's the question we asked here. You know, if we had a system of education where at every crucial level, and I can mention a few, like let's say at every level, like PLE, you are being churned from a particular grade to another one. You go to USCE and UCE, something like that, I think, then university. How about we focus on these levels of departure? I want to use that word, that at this point we are dispatching a child for a particular, with particular abilities,
Okay.
So that we deal with this, that even if someone was not able to proceed from P7 to S1 and blah blah to S4, they have particular, they may not be great, but they have a mild level of abilities. Go to
that
S4.
Can sustain them through life.
S4, 4 years, in addition now to the 7 years. What abilities come with that certificate? I think we should focus on the kind of things we are teaching. Because if you want to usher people, say, automatically to go on, and they are going on with not, I wouldn't say irrelevant, but not profound knowledge. Or one would say, if I was to use a bit harsh language, which I wouldn't want to call on to, but almost useless in terms of productivity. Because what can a S4 do in terms of production? You get it?
Output.
So,
okay.
Exactly. So I think that this should be able to trick our minds to think towards that at every departure level, PLE, S4 and S6, at that point when everyone comes out, they have an ability for that level.
All right.
If they're able to add on, it's okay. If they're not able to add on...
We have seen what Felix is talking about in government schools, or at least the experience I've had in the government schools that I went to. You did have woodwork, you did have home economics, metalwork, knitting. So you did have all these other extra forms of education that a child would adopt. By the time they come out, they are usually of quality than quantity. Now, speaking of which, now the Ministry of Health is ready and prepared for schools reopening. The question is, are the students ready? Are the parents ready? You do have stakeholders such as school owners, especially for the private sector. How ready are they for schools reopening? Of course, in noting that it's in the wake of COVID-19, in the wake of a new variant on the globe, that puts a lot more pressure on the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Health. So how prepared are all the involved stakeholders in actually processing and aiding the Ministry of Education's reopening of schools?
Well, I want to look at it in a macro, in an all-around aspect here. When we talk about how prepared, it's not only saying that this is the opening date for school. First, let's look at the child. You know, we've had 2 years. Some of these have never stepped in any classroom. And what is very important is psychological preparation. 10th is not far from now. I don't see any efforts being taken first by the Ministry of Education to prepare the teachers. If you have to look at the teacher who is going to the classroom on 10th is a very, very different teacher from the teacher you had 2 years back. They have been out of employment, they have been in private schools. Some now have alternative sources, so they are going to be gamblers here and there. They are teaching, maybe he has been carrying out bricklaying with so many of them. Some have been border. So the mind of this teacher who would wake up, think about how I prepare my lesson plan, what I'm going to do, is now a divided mind. So how have you prepared that teacher? Some of them had families before. Because of the times they went through, which we all accept, they are coming back now with broken families. So there was a need, not just to say this is the debt and this is the money available, to focus on the mind. You know, the mind controls a lot of things. To have some lessons to ensure that the teachers get to understand who the child they are going to receive. You're now going to be teaching a fellow father, a mother. You're teaching a child, and if you're going to have the same mindset. And the expectation is that this role you're speaking of, or this duty that you are placing, is going to fall on who? This duty has, the government has, or school owners, there has to be intended preparation. It is true what they say, to serve a government to embed everything. First, continue. Then, if you leave the teacher alone, because this has not been done, psychological preparation has not been done, yet it is key at the time you are going through. Go to the children. Here, parents have to prepare them. And dear parent, don't think about, I've given you the books, I've given you this, I've given you that, now you're ready to go to school. Okay. Look at that psychological element. Then when we go to, in terms of finances, government, yes, the ministry put a capitation grant of 107 billion. That is for government schools. And about 62 billion, that is for restoration, facelifting of these schools. But the private sector has not been catered for. And when you look at our country, we have over 28,000 private schools. This education sector actually is dominated by private schools. Very few government schools, and maybe those that we call traditional, church-founded, mosque-founded. But when you tell them to go to these other alternative sources that have already been there, I just want to remind you, last month, the Federation of Non-Government Schools came before the Education Parliamentary Committee of Parliament, and they said, bail us out with at least 100 million each of these schools, payable in a period of not exceeding 5 years, with an interest rate of at least 5%, so that we can be able to at least have basics. Because it's going to be very expensive now to run a school than ever before. Okay. You're going to use more water, you're going to use more electricity. So even in terms of how we've provided the financial muscles to ensure the basics are provided there, we've not done that. All right. So I don't believe really we are that ready. Come to vaccination. The ministry came out, the public relations of the ministry was very clear. He said, any teacher who is not vaccinated, you're not going to teach in a government school. You will not get salary. So make sure you're vaccinated or quit the profession. Yes, because government, of course, has to be the leader in the vaccination drive and the campaign. If they want others to follow, they must take the lead. So I definitely do commend that, and I second it for that matter. Still looking at schools preparation, you do have the private sector that you have mentioned. And in the wake of this morning, having received news that private sectors are yet to be given tax waivers in aiding them to actually prepare for the schools reopening. You also do have the inclusion and the injection plan of about 113 billion shillings for schools reopening. These are all in aiding different, the private and the government get ready for the calendar year that is being released by the Ministry of Education and Sports. Felix, let's talk about the school waivers, tax waivering. How is it going to aid these schools? And, given the spell of how long it may be, how important is it? How does it trickle down to service delivery at the end of the day?
Well, absolutely, it has a big impact, and I'll tell you why. You see, COVID is defined by essential attributes, and one of them if you want to talk about places that have crowds, I think in this country there is no other place that has more crowds like schools. For some of you who have been privileged to go to boarding schools, and probably myself and some of the UPE schools or government schools, you've seen the crowds even in terms of even the space where you study. Classroom has over 100 students. Secondly, when you go to even these universities of yours, we have people who learn they learn through neighborhood education. You know, you go to course units like BBA, is it? Bachelors of Business Administration. I was in Makerere and you would see people in windows. When you go to, I don't know what Swaswa, people in social sciences, yes, I believe. Yes. You know, now this that I'm saying is simply indicative of the need for the most essential materials we use for the fight against COVID-19. Robert did mention a bit of it, that the most essential attributes. You see, even you may not give, government may fail to find money to give over 2,000 schools, 100 million each, but in its keen modestness, it must be able to give some of these incentives. For example, is it willing to discuss issues of reduction of prices in water, electricity?
Actually, when it comes to electricity, yesterday the Pure of the ministry said Umeme has agreed to extend, that is electricity, to all schools. The outstanding debt, they have given them 12 months from the date of opening for them to be able to clear. So we won't have schools that are going to be disconnected of electricity. So they'll have 12 months, operate, clear your debt.
I don't believe that. I don't believe those things unless they are put on pen and paper. We have seen such funny promises. For example, when they came out to say that landlords don't demand money from, how would you put that?
Landlords, that's private, but yeah,
no, but it was said. Is women is equally private? Is it government?
But you see, you can't make statements and they're only protecting government and not protecting private, because we're all supposed to be beneficiaries.
This whole thing of lip service, for me, I don't like it. It's actually very diversionary. Someone will plan something different, yet they could have probably sorted these bills. Women is not a government institution, sir.
Definitely.
So when you say it was a private, it's the same thing. Women has totally different agendas. In as much as it has also a contract that exists between government, and government is not, unless government says it's going to reduce also on the taxes, it's
charging them. Okay.
So you find that it's a stretch of discussions that government must bitterly get into. We stand a very unclear position as we open up. People may be excited, opening, but you're going to have a very big problem. You may have schools where staff needed of about 70, you only have 20. I can tell you. So if government doesn't step in to assist, you may find that if kids were supposed to do, or used to do prep, all these things, they may not be able to do those things. You will find that kids will not have access to the most basic needs, majorly in times of COVID, because of the failure of government to come out openly about these private school issues. And painfully, you know that private schools are more than
government schools.
They don't need the
Speaking of which, then it brings in the question of how best can private schools actually be supported in ensuring that they cope with the new normal and also adhere to the requests in coverage of COVID-19, especially as far as the health of the children is concerned, because you do have, even in the presence of vaccines, you still can get COVID-19. You do have a part of a population that is not yet having a vaccine for them, that is going out there and they may contract COVID-19, but what are the support measures that can be put there in protection of the children in the presence of COVID-19 while they are returning to school?
Well, for me, I would suggest waivers on key essentials used in these schools. For example, why wouldn't we see National Water and Sewage Corporation, these school institutions, either totally lower the cost of water being used? by schools, because you know this meter belongs to a school, because water is critical. Issues like electricity, if we can have either waivers or total reduction of a unit that goes to any education institution at such a time. Then also financial assistance. Yes, when we talk about there is money in Bank of Uganda, they have extended. You see, we must have something specifically directly tailor-made for the education institution, because telling schools now to go to these institutions where there's not a particular package for them, because education may not be like other businesses. You must have either a loan system that they had requested for, because it is money that is needed here. So if you look at the basics, then also very importantly, we must also ensure that where possible, this is the time that even we should have private, public partnership in terms of staffing. Okay. Where possible, how do we aid them with teachers? Some of these private schools, because the areas you go to and all you have is a private school. Maybe you in a village don't have a government school. What is there is a private school. So how do you ensure that children in this school can be able to have...
Thank you, Robert. Of course, we have talked about these conversations in the presence of all factors being kept constant, but there are some factors that are not going to be constant. One of them, of course, you do have a couple of schools that are not going to reopen simply because they cannot afford to come back into the system and support service delivery of the education to the normal Uganda. You do have the labor force itself, the human resource itself is not going to be the 100% that we had before COVID-19, with the diversionary options that teachers, teaching and non-teaching staff have been offered here and there. You definitely are going to look at the thing that Felix did talk about, that the expected 70, you're going to get 20 returning back into school. Let's look at the school dropouts also that may never have to, you know, enjoy the privilege of education in the wake of COVID-19. What would be the possible remedies, solutions, or way forward in the wake or the presence of those factors?
I think it's a good start. The fact that we've got some level of clarity in terms of when to open, I think that's the best for now. And in as much as government has much to do, I think also school proprietors have lots of things to do. We believe and trust that government is the custodian of education, because education is a right in this country, but also believe that people's businesses are their own properties, so there must be an effort from the side of those particular people. Government may not be in position to do much or at mostly everything, but we're trying to mend gaps and spaces, trying to fill up the spaces of COVID-19. But also, as we open up, I want to implore government, in particular the head of state, the Minister of Education, that we must rethink our syllabus deeper. We have done something, but let's do something much more about it.
All right, thank you so much. I do give a call out to the Ministry of Health to find a way to actually support the schools reopening in terms of the vaccination drive. Away from that, we turn our attention to the tabloids and what they have to say about the schools reopening and the calendar that has been released.
Introducing the all-new Roofing's TMX 500C rebars with cut and bend services. Roofing's, strength of a nation.
It's the festive season and we love it. And that means it's time to celebrate with GoTV.
Come with me.
So get your GoCoder and GoTV value for 25,000 shillings to watch with the whole family. And if you're feeling extra festive, upgrade to our best package yet, GoTV Super.
Something to look forward to.
Download the My GoTV app for more information.
Super.
We all deserve a super festive season. And with GoTV, there's every reason to love it.
Transact and win money after money with Airtel Money. 1.5 billion shillings in cash prizes up for grabs.
Nyombe Maruse Ronald Ngazwarua Micholu star alo aro towi hash me daily milo airtime je micho mi MB's data je then milo choti milo issue in the banlo send the balu mi call customer can lo me call early or mini in the send.
The more you transact, the higher your chances of winning. Airtel Money. Instant, secure, borderless.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Thank you for keeping it with us on UBC TV. Keeping you informed is our main objective every morning. It's now time we take a look at what is trending in the print media. I'm holding the New Vision. Felix has the Daily Monitor and the Daily Nation. On education, private schools given tax waiver. And of course, there is the new education calendar that was released. Museveni hosts Indian community for at his Diwali festival. We see the president here and his guests. The new PDF hits 3 ADF bases in Virunga Park, that is aiming at wiping out the ADF. Then while rugby's Seguia is irreplaceable, that is in the side of sports. Then green-pink vehicle logbooks phased out. So if you own a vehicle, something there for you. Kayunga vote LC5 chairperson today. It is the D-Day for Kayunga. And the parenting column, help my child is too close to the maid. And still we have over 180 tenders for you there. And education, we have Senior 1 Chemistry, Senior 2 Physics, Mathematics, and Senior 3 English.
Well, of course, Daily Monitor, school reopening spoils Xmas and New Year fete plot. That is very, very true, by the way. Head teachers say time ministry has given the education to prepare for the reopening is very short. And of course, they advise parents not to spend lots of money in this festive season. However, save for tuition. Wow. The calendar is out. It's also give you a copy of it here in the Daily Monitor, but also how to protect learners from coronavirus. They give you tips. And Soroti Flying School plane crash lands injures cadet pilot. Now, in cars, is your car ready for festive season travels? Is it? He will tell us. Now, Uganda and Kenya trade wars explode and 14 districts miss Makerere private admission. From the archives, the US President Bill Clinton visits, that is Kisoweda Primary School in Mukono District, 1998. And Uganda nurses returned from Libya, that is in 1979. But also, 2 airplanes collide over New York City. Wow, 1960.
Back to the New Vision this morning. We begin with the COVID-19 tracker. New confirmed cases, 92. Positivity rate, 2.2. No death registered. Total death is 3,269. Once again, go for that jab. We need to eliminate death as a result of COVID-19, but also ensure that you have your mask and also follow all the standard operating procedures to avoid more infections. We look at today in history. It was on this date, the 16th of December, the year 1973, when Sudanese president opened a bridge. But still on the same date, but the year 1920, earthquake hits China's Guangzhou province. Still on parenting, my 2 boys are always fighting. How can I help them? And also, my child is too close to the maid. How do I win her back?
Now, of course, in sports, greatest rests under coach Robert Seguia, one of Uganda's greatest rugby players, is dead. Sogi, as he was fondly known, lost the battle to leukemia on Tuesday following months of illness that brought together everyone he loved. Now, Premier League, we see hot race. Liverpool and Chelsea must beat Newcastle and Everton, respectively, to keep up with the ramping Man City. Now, also still about sports, Khalifa tasks attack to deliver in Johannesburg, and beat goes on a Jonas Melo in USPA award. But of course also NBA All Hell Curry 3-point record. That was a good one when we saw him put a record up. Now UCAA for golf celebrations. And of course Damani escaped from Lions Den there.
Looking at the New Vision Sports, we begin with the fourth of the six-part series of Sam Simbwa. I was better than Mayanja, he says, and there's so much. Asegria is a legend. They give you much of that, a picture of Jackson Mayanja, and of course more sensitization run, 3 days to go regarding COVID-19. But don't forget, these and more, Ruben is here to give you all the updates to miss.
Well, of course, in the Daily Nation also, I will see as Kiryutu's U-turn on Raila support and reprieve for Kinoti court suspends arrest warrant. And of course, the big headline, KRA to access cash in secret bank account. Now, of course, they give you more in-depth about the politics there and how it's playing out for people. Ruto and Raila fight for votes in diaspora. Is that key, and will that be able to spark the cloud in terms of who will take the day come 2022 when Kenyans go to the polls? But of course, that's and more, we will be giving you updates time and again on what's transpiring, both of course in the papers and of course outside at the same, but majorly on current affairs. But for now, we want to take you onto the roads. Tell us how they're looking with Priscilla. There was a police statement that I think came out about the Gayaza roundabout or something like that. We don't know how true it is. Maybe it will be confirmed by the lady Nali herself.
Thank you so much, Felix. Looking at where I want to pick up my traffic update from this morning, you have paid your URA taxes and you want to leave or just want to come to URA head office and get your taxes cleared, but you have to, of course, interact with Ginger Road. You get to see that there is a bit of jam between Tinder Road and the interaction of it with the area code of Spears Motors. We also get to look at a bit of traffic, of course, that would be experienced from the Chinawataka area code coming into the Ginger Road, right about that very same junction that is known as Kuspias. Katalima Road is also having some sort of interaction jam in there on the rest of the area code of Nakawa, but most of it seems to be clear around about this time. You also definitely come into the Nakawa Business Park. Adjacent to it is the Nakawa Market, where you also get to see orange lines, meaning the traffic is flowing, not much of difficulty there if you are within that area code and are moving either to the heart of the city or heading away from the heart of the city upon the same route. Coming into Lugogo, we also get to see around Lugogo where you do have the traffic lights of the Lugogo Mall. You get to see that the traffic lights are also doing a good job in managing the traffic. Orange lines and the red line, they are only indicator of which direction the traffic is actually flowing in accordance to the traffic lights. Away from that, you get to see the rest of Ginger Road being clear, and this then will bring you past Uganda Management Institute, Internal Affairs, and right onto the Ethel roundabout. We got to see traffic jam building up from First Street onto the Ethel roundabout this morning. You also get to see interaction of traffic heavily for the route en route Bugolobi on Old Port Bell Road, and you also got to see the extension of the similar traffic onto the rest of Ginger Road, courtesy of the Ethel roundabout. But of course, there's this maneuvering route that can be used, the Centenary Park lane, that can be used to avoid that kind of traffic. Wampo Avenue also is a good alternative. Again, just so you know, the traffic lights that are new on Acacia Avenue, they run for 5 seconds, so that has caused more harm than good in terms of management of traffic. But speaking of which, we now come into the center of Ginger Road, where you do have interaction between Access Road and also Yusuf Lule Road, and you get to see the hectic jam building up on Access Road coming in from Mukwano Road. You also do see a lot of traffic that is interacting with the traffic lights. They're adjacent to Kitgum House, and then you also get to see a little bit of traffic that is appearing on the Oasis Mall roundabout. Those are some of the considerations for traffic in that regard. Of course, when you look at Mukwano Road, it also gives you an indicator, and as I had mentioned yesterday, because of the traffic arrangements there, the coming up of the Kampala flyover, you are having a lot of challenges in regards to Mukwano Road, and also because now there's heavy traffic that is accessing Mukwano Road, you are having potholes, especially where the railway lines are. Heavy potholes that are causing cars to move rather at a slower pace so that their cars are not damaged, and yet they have to make room for themselves and those ahead of them so that they don't damage each other, knock themselves, and yet go through Mukwano Road. So a consideration in at least a reconstruction or covering of those potholes by KCCA would be nice at such a time as this, when trade is at its peak. Now, speaking of which, what has been told of you by Felix, we get to look at the police announcing a week-long traffic diversion at Northern Bypass, that is Gayaza Road interchange, and the Director for Traffic and Road Safety has announced that it will close a road section along the Northern Bypass in Kampala for a week starting today. And so people that are using that particular route of Gayaza Road, you might want to find alternative routes. The interaction of Northern Bypass and the Gayaza Road interchange there. And so this has been announced, and you need to now make better decisions on where to be able to pass, getting onto the rest of it. So in a lot of this, all road users intending to go to Gayaza Road coming from Entebbe or coming in from Namungona are advised to use the Waise interchange, and then they can come through from Mulago, Karere, intending to go to Namungona. So instead of basically the route between Namungona and then what you would be having as the Gayaza Road, that part of the Northern Bypass is going to be closed off for a week. So if you are in Namungona, either you have to come back, go through Kalere, and then go through the Waise interchange there to be able to access the rest of where you are going, or if you're coming in from the opposite direction, just reverse that direction and you will be good to go. Also, you do have those coming in from Entebbe Express are advised to use the Waise or the Chebando interchange to access the Northern Bypass. If you are coming in from Entebbe Express, which directly connects of course to the Northern Bypass, you are advised to go through Waise or the Chebando interchange there. And so you are appealed of course to have understanding and patience and care, but of course for the coming week starting today, expect a lot of traffic jam in that regard. And so what you see there on your screen are the diversionary routes that have been created, and the area on the Kampala Northern flyover that is going to be affected with the this communication that has been passed. So please make sure that you make best choices now, because 2 weeks ago we saw that happening and the havoc it caused. We had traffic jam going all the way to 10 p.m. in the middle of the night. Okay, in regards to your responses this morning, we got to see some of you that have given us responses in this regard. You have Assalamu alaikum. Yeah, Imam Jamal Musa from Masindi Municipality. You're saying thank you so much UBC for the program. Thank you so much, Imam. You also have another respondent here. In regards to our poll question, Jimmy says medical doctors have a point to send a signal to the government concerning their paychecks, and he has a feeling that our government can be merciful to the doctors and fix their financial situation. He gives a scripture to fix the situation. Matthew 5:7 clearly states that blessed are those merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. What we sow into someone else's life today is what we shall receive as much and more. And so let the Ugandan government not ignore our medical workers, but all the same, medical doctors should not abandon seriously ill patients who need their help. And he continues to give you another scripture in that regard. Of course, those are some of the messages that we have been able to receive this morning. If we are to go on Twitter and find out your reactions to our poll daily this morning, where we get to look at UBC in a festive season on Twitter. Who is to blame for the unending strikes for the medical workers? You do have Negohe_tab saying Ugandans have not reached that level of knowing what the real purpose says of their foreign funded but locally managed NGOs. Until we know, NGOs will continue to disorient government policies, priorities and programs, and even over being held by gullible Ugandans. So you do have Ondoma Moses saying government is to be blamed for unending promises. Okay, there's no such thing as an ending promise. The promise is made. It's just that it's not fulfilled in the desired time of the recipient. So I think that's where the collusion is, that there was a promise, a commitment made by the government, the head of state. However, the maturity of that commitment is where the challenge is right now. But sooner or later, that should be sorted and resolved with the medical association. Away from that, Molen Kinyana gives us an intel, an update into a raging typhoon that is emerging on the Philippines Islands.
Well, Priscilla, I can tell you just earlier today, we are having reports that this typhoon, according to the Philippine Met Services, is actually getting more and more stronger and most likely to be making landfall into the coast with a Category 5 size of a typhoon. That is like a super typhoon, but we'll look into that just a little bit later. We will start it off with mostly we did see a record-breaking temperature yesterday that it was confirmed and verified by the World Meteorological Organization, and that is 38 degrees centigrade across the Arctic. Now this comes in as just a new record and showing how warm it is becoming across the Arctic, and that is from one of the areas within Russia. Now from that, today the Met Office did come up with a report and mostly looking at how we are looking at climate change in terms of periods. Now they're looking at a period of 30 years each time, and just the recent one, even from what we're seeing in terms of record-breaking temperatures, we're looking at more and more trend, temperatures raging and increasing. Now, according to what Met Office has analyzed, you look at even in the past, so for the first 30 years that I looked at, that is between 1931 to 1960, you look at the area where we're still in the blues. But take a look at 1961 to 1990. Now we head for that red stripe there. Now where you see the red stripes is actually an indication that there is a lot of increase in temperatures. Now that is where we start to get things wrong. Between 1961 and 1990, now you look at the influence of human activities, you look at increased emissions of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, so meaning that temperatures now start to rise. Now what is worrying right now is that period between 1991 to 2020, you see only the red stripes all over again. Now those are literally 30 years, and that's when we start to look at climate patterns changing. Now you see most of it is covered in red, and that can only mean that even moving ahead of 2020, we're going to be looking at more of those red stripes, looking at increase in temperatures. So over and over, we look at extreme weather events that are related to the increase in temperatures across the world. So this is just to come up as a warning that, hey, this is where we're headed and something should be done to put these temperatures down. Because we are looking at extreme weather events, and talking of which, just recently this whole week we've been dealing with tornadoes across most states within the United States, and that was across Kentucky and most areas. But this morning we have reports that there is another widespread wind spills across one of the states, that is Minnesota. And for the very first time we look at situations where Minnesota has never had a tornado or even a storm within December. Now it's going to be the first time that they're also looking at such kind of extreme weather within December. So that goes to show you how much this is spread. Now this is likely to develop into a hurricane still, where you see the L, those are low pressure systems. You look at the winds that are still moving through, coming to the center of that low pressure system. Now what that means is that it then becomes a storm and will be moving across most states. And right now Minnesota is looking at most of the severe events that could be involved with this low pressure system, which could even become a hurricane. And most of that, what is bringing right now is widespread rains. We have a little bit of strong winds across the state. And most of what is likely across that area is that it could also bring a lot of distraction. But the good news is that evacuations already began across the state, and the Weather Center is still advising people to actually stay away from its path, and that is most likely what could save people. But also what is being talked about right now, and I have a friend who was also worried this morning about Typhoon Rai. Now Typhoon Rai is it started developing as a Category 1 hurricane across the Philippines. Now this is what they call typhoon, but typhoon is just another name for hurricane, for a tropical storm, and those that usually happen across Africa are the ones we call tropical cyclones. So it is the same, but now the Philippines is looking at a superstorm. Now this could actually make landfall in a huge amount of strength, and that could lead to a lot of destruction. Well, it did start off as a Category 1, Category 2 hurricane, but then this morning it did actually move from Category 1, Category 2 to Category 4, and already the forecast by the National Met Center from Philippines shows that this could make landfall as a Category 5. Now that is a very super typhoon, and most likely what is ahead of the southeast part of Philippines is they are going to be looking at more flooding. They are going to be looking at very destructive winds, which is already why most of the evacuation plans are already in play, and people have started, moving away from the path of the Typhoon Rai. Now, what is likely is that it did start off as, at a wind, strength of 260 kilometers per hour. But you take a look at the way it is moving very fast, leaving Manila quite ahead here. But so it started right from the ocean. It is moving at a strength of 260 kilometers per hour, but then it also starts to go down. You see the strength going down, that is 220 kilometers per hour. That is earlier today as well. So now what is in the forecast is that by Friday it is actually going to have that strength a little bit down. We look at 170 kilometers per hour. That is the strength it will be moving at. Then later on Friday, and it will be at 185 kilometers per hour. But again, you see Saturday it starts to strengthen, and that means that it again changes course. So the impacts that we're seeing right now is from this 220 kilometers per hour, heading for most areas within Philippines, and Manila a little bit not yet in the red zone, but most of the areas to the south coast of Philippines are likely to have a lot of impact, and that analysis has been done this morning by CNN Weather Center. But you also look at the fact that Philippines has been worst hit by most of these extreme weather events. Each year you will find that there is a typhoon across this same place. So this is one that I think authorities are also looking into, and already you have international organizations also making alerts to make sure that at least evacuations are done. And most of these states actually, even across the coast of Philippines, are very vulnerable people. So it means that there's going to be a lot of distraction, and that means all the aid is needed across that area to make sure that even when we have these extreme events, at least we don't lose a lot of lives to such weather events. But well, this morning we did start off with some weather events of our own here in Kampala. There was a lot of that haze, so that was causing a little bit of reduced visibility. Most areas actually close to Lake Victoria was appearing as if fog, so most of that is starting to clear as well. So mostly fog does clear just as the sun starts to come through. It does clear, but you also look at the fact that we are having mostly dry conditions lately, so there is a lot of dust particles in the atmosphere, so those do trap a little bit of that moisture. We had rains last evening, so that moisture within the air mixed with the particles are what actually gets suspended within the atmosphere, and for us we can see it as haze. We can can see it as fog at some time, but at least that has started to clear. We do expect it to clear more as the day progresses. But we'll go ahead and take a look at the weather that we are having right now across most areas within the country. Now, we did start off with that rainy system across most areas, but take a look at the forecast that we have. That is for central northern Uganda, where we have Gulu, Kitgum, Padel, Ajumani. We're forecasting a mix of clouds and sunshine, starting off hot at 29. We do expect that condition to continue into the afternoon. Now you have Central Lake Victoria Basin, where we have Mukono, Kampala, Entebbe and Wakiso. We're forecasting those isolated rains, starting off with a pleasant 26 degrees centigrade, and that system will clear into light showers later in the afternoon. Now we look at the western side of Lake Victoria, where we have Masaka, Rakai, Kalisizo. We're forecasting those light rains again, starting off with a pleasant 26 degrees centigrade. We do expect those rains to continue into the afternoon as well. Now you look at most areas within the eastern part of Central, where we have Ruwero, Wobulenzi, Bururi, Nakaseke. We are forecasting a mix of clouds and sunshine, starting off with a warm 28 degrees centigrade. Now southwestern Uganda, we're forecasting also sunny intervals, starting off with a 26. We do expect a little bit of rains later in the afternoon, but that will be also across a few areas. Now across the Elgon region, we're forecasting a mix of clouds and sunshine, also with a warm morning starting off at 27 degrees centigrade. That area can expect to maintain similar conditions even in the afternoon. Now eastern Uganda, we're expecting similar weather, where we have a mix of clouds and sunshine, starting off with a hot 28 degrees centigrade. Now the eastern part of Lake Victoria, where we have Tororo, Busia, Iganga and Jinja, we're forecasting sunny intervals, also starting off hot at 28 degrees centigrade, but we do expect those temperatures to come down as we have a rainy system that is moving in across that area, and that is one that we're putting our eyes on, because that could be bringing more rainfall conditions across that area. Now that is the same system that did start off today across the Lake Victoria Islands. Now it is moving further, and that is likely to also come towards parts of central Lake Victoria Basin, as well as Western Lake. That is where we have Masaka, Rengo, Sembabule. That area can expect to have rains, and that will be being a contribution from that rainy system that we did start off with earlier this morning. Well, that is it in terms of weather. We do have the agenda coming up. Robert will be here to take you through that, and later we will have sports. But do not forget to catch us even on live. We are on YouTube, that is UBC Television Uganda, and also on Twitter at #UBCGMU. My name is Molen Kenyana. I want to wish you a wonderful morning.
Everyone deserves more this festive season, which is why MTN Momo is giving you more thank you points on your MTN Momo withdrawals at agent locations. Get 150 thank you points for every 1,000 shillings spent in withdrawal fees. More thank you points means you get more free minutes, more free MBs, more free SMSs, and more free Momo Pay shopping. To use your thank you points, dial *141#.
Everywhere you go, MTN. Pick of the day on UBC, brought to you by was brought to you by
Just use MTN to make calls, send SMS, load airtime, buy bundles, or pay for MTN subscription services.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
It's the festive season and we love it. And that means it's time to celebrate with GoTV.
Come with me.
So get your GoCoder and GoTV value for 25,000 shillings to watch with the whole family. And if you're feeling extra festive, upgrade to our best package yet, GoTV Super.
Something to look forward to.
Download the My GoTV app for more information.
Super.
We all deserve a super festive season. And with GoTV, there's every reason to love it.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins